Hello and welcome to Rusted Junk. We are looking at the 1984 comedy Police Academy. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that I'm joined by regular contributor, friend of the podcast. How else can I describe you? Papa Dom.
I feel like a fringe player in a football team who's made the breakthrough to the first 11. This is back-to-back pod spot, isn't it? So yeah.
I like to think you're Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You're a super sub. That you're always part of the team. And you come on and then knock it out the park.
I'll settle for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Okay, there you go. You're this, well, no, but I don't want to I don't want to describe you as super sub. Anyway, we need to.
Although he was described as the baby-faced assassin, wasn't he? Whereas I don't think time's been as kind to me. So
well,
I'm not.
If somebody is listening on audio and wants to go across to YouTube, go along to YouTube, and please tell us the similarities you can see between Tom and major football players. But anyway, we are here to discuss the 1984 film Police Academy, starring Steve Guttenberg, G.W. Bailey, Kim Cattrall, Bubba Smith, others. Anyway, here's the trailer.
Crime. The city was full of it.
Hey! Free TVs!
Desperate measures were needed.
Want you to go to the police academy.
The police academy is such a dangerous place.
Honey, don't worry.
Desperate measures were taken.
I'm joining the police force. Ah!
The mayor says we have to take this riffraff.
I'm trapped here?
Well, yes, we all are.
What about guns? When do we get guns?
You will be schooled in firearms, police procedures, local laws, and many, many other things.
High-speed driving. And self-defense.
I need a volunteer.
That's me. I'd love to go.
Police Academy.
Where did you get this gun?
Mom gave it to me.
Mister, I am warning you, Hightower!
They're lean.
20, Roger.
Mean.
Does the radio bother you? 5.
I can turn it down.
Obscene. Each and every one of them striving to defend.
You make me sick.
Thank you, sir. I make everybody sick. See the thighs.
Or upend.
Come on. I haven't got all day. The thighs.
And now that they're ready for the real world,
Give me the thing!
crime is no longer the #1 problem. They are.
Can you get my kitty cat out of the tree?
No problem, ma'am.
Police Academy.
There's a lot wrong with that trailer, I think. I don't know where to start. It shows you one of the funny scenes in the movies. It's just all pieced together wrong. It's just they didn't know what kind of hit they had on the hands, so they make that. Whereas when you look at the later trailers for the later films, which we'll get to. Anyway, welcome everybody. I guess we've got a lot to discuss on this film. There's a lot to discuss that isn't the film, but is Police Academy related. So, as ever, let's get right into it because I think it's going to be a belter. This one, I really do. As I always go last. I was about to say, as I always let guests go first, but Amanda goes first, Joe goes first, Dom goes first. I always go last. One day I might go first. I was about to say come first, but anyway, go first.
If you want today to be that day, I'm happy to defer. You can go first. If
No, it won't be this. It won't be today.
So,
Because I'm more dying to hear your score than you are mine.
all right, okay. Well,
And can we have halves? Can we have halves in scores or not?
I've given this a half score. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I think I'm going to write it down on my hand and I'm going to show it. All right.
So I think this is a really hard film to review because I think it's a battle between an objective appraisal of its merits as a film
Right.
versus how kind of watching it makes you feel and respond. Because I hope this isn't going to be the time you chuck me off the pod, Charlie. But in many ways, this is not a good movie. There was a famous Roger Ebert review, which made me smile when I read it. Which said, part of the quote is, "It's really something. It's so bad. Maybe you should pull your money and draw straws and send one of the guys off to rent it, so that in the future, whenever you think you're sitting through a bad comedy, he can shake his head and chuckle tolerantly and explain that you don't know what bad is." and he's not alone in thinking it's a terrible film. The way it's edited and directed undermines the jokes and the delivery. The whole kind of franchise is a bit of a stark example of movie studios cynically maximizing their profits at the expense of other considerations. So on the one hand, I could, I'm not going to, but I could easily score this film like a 2 out of 10. However, there is also a strong case to say this is like a definitive 80s movie, excuse me. Yeah. And if you don't love Police Academy, then what are you doing listening to an 80s movie podcast? Because
that's fair.
I remember watching this film with my family as a kid, and all of us me, my dad and my brother, laughing our heads off, and rewatching it for this. Loads of occasions just smiling as I was watching it, lots of nostalgia, but also enjoying the film in its own right. So look, we'll get into the strengths and the weaknesses of the film as we talk on this, but my overall score for it, considered verdict, 7.5 out of 10.
Wow. Okay. That's what I had written down on my hand, which... but wow, okay. Well, I agree. I agree with that. I probably can't put it better than that. I would say this was a Hunter family favorite. We wore out this VHS. You know, it was always seemed to be constantly on. It always seemed to be we would just reach for it if it was around. Bearing in mind that we would have got it on video, 1984. And I think paid, because if for those listeners that are, I don't know, under 40, VHS kids, it was great. But if you wanted to buy a VHS copy of something, it was 50 quid in that money. So whatever it would be now, probably 80 quid or so now, equivalent, to buy a VHS. Which is why the rental stores did roaring trades, because you could go there and rent it for 2 quid. But yeah, I have such fond memories of this film, and we'll get to it. I had fond memories of the later films. However, we will get to that, as in how my rose-tinted spectacles well and truly fell off. My score is exactly the same as yours. It's 7.5, which is why I asked for halves. I can't give it an 8. I can't give it less than. I can't give it 7. It firmly sits right in the middle of the two, because you're right. It's not a good film in the way that Naked Gun isn't a good film. Naked Gun is an excellent comedy. It's 10 out of 10. Shot. I guess. Why am I trying to compare Police Academy to Naked Gun? They share the same space, but they're not the same film. They're not shot in the same way. But yeah, I mean, we'll get to it. But yeah, definitely 7.5 out of 10 for me.
I think that comparison with films like Naked Gun and Airplane is relevant as well, not just to benchmark them as a superior.
It's probably unwarranted. It's probably unwarranted because you and I both, we did the Naked Gun podcast. We both looked at each other. We both kind of knew what we were going to do and say, it's 10. It's 10 out of 10. I mean, it has to be. And the film that this film is copying, and there's so many things that have been stolen and nicked, is the 1981 film Stripes with Bill Murray, which we've covered on the podcast. They literally lift scenes from Stripes and stick them into Police Academy, and you're like, well, what is it? Imitation's the most sincerest form of flattery. Well, but Stripes is a 10 out of 10 film for me. It's flawless for me. This 2.5 marks dropped.
I think perhaps for our listeners and for this discussion, maybe flawed films where we that are less than stellar make it for more interesting listeners. There's more to discuss there.
Having said that, I love Dan Naked Gun podcast. I love it when there is a huge big loving. Case in point, I had on at the weekend. I put the Sure Thing on to watch that again, and we didn't give scores at that time. That's a 10. I mean, it's just so good, the Sure Thing. But when Amanda saw it, she was full of praise. I was full of praise, and it kind of worked. But yeah, there's nothing better than when we battle, such as Iron Eagle.
Feels like you've popped your 10 cherry and now you're dishing it out like lollipops, mate. You were a fair few seasons into the pod, didn't you, before you issued your first 10?
Well, we didn't issue scores until season 3, I believe. So, one of the ideas that I had was let's go back and watch the films. Let's go back and rate what we would have, including anybody that joined the podcast at that time. And it's kind of like, I know what I'd give films that I love, which is why I want to set up the podcast in the first place. I know that I would give Iron Eagle 9.5. There are a few things wrong with it. I know that I give The Sure Thing 10. I know I give The Breakfast Club 10. I know I give Ferris a 10. But that's me cheating because I already know that the reason that they've got such, I've got such love for them. So don't worry, my cherry's not going to be popped too much. I'm just going to keep the 10 in the box until it's needed.
It would be fun to have a little league table of where the films sit, the excellent ones you've done, and some of the that's an excellent. But okay,
yeah, absolutely, yeah, that's a good idea. Well, I have to do a website. Oh God, okay.
In a departure from the usual much loved format, I thought it was probably worth just going off on a slight tangent just to talk about the kind of rationale behind the film, and hopefully this isn't plundering your trivia time too much.
No, this is a great idea. We discussed this, and I think it's a great idea.
As you watch Police Academy through with a slightly critical eye, preparing for this, because most people who are watching Police Academy just want a fun, entertaining evening, and it duly delivers. But if you kind of look beyond the surface, and it is a slightly clunky film, I think, in parts. It's trying to do different things, and there's kind of a strange inconsistency to it. And anyway, in preparing, I think understanding the backstory of the film is relevant to this discussion. The first thing it's worth noting is that the film's surprisingly based on real events. So apparently the producer got the idea for the film, filming another film in San Francisco, and he said, I noticed a bunch of ludicrous-looking police cadets being dressed down by a frustrated sergeant. They were an unbelievable bunch, including a lady who must have weighed over 200 pounds and a flabby man of well over 50. I asked the sergeant about them, and he explained that the mayor, had ordered the department to accept a broad spectrum for the academy. We have to take them in, he said, and the only thing we can do is wash them out. So
right.
The producer has this idea. He turns it into a pitch. The studio love it, and their eyes light up because they think we've got another Porky's on our hands here. This has got all the opportunity ingredients to be another kind of standout smash like that. Excuse me. But what happened next was that the studio hired the director, a guy called Hugh Wilson, who wasn't familiar with films of this genre. He wasn't their first choice director.
Right.
And I think it's a really strange decision, which I feel undermines parts of the film, because basically the studio executives and the directors were trying to do two different things and had two different visions for the film. The studio are trying to make money like studios do, but in a fairly, you used the word earlier, influenced by / rip off, successful films in similar genres. These films are making a ton of money. Let's do it again. And the director said, I wanted to go for real laughter rather than going for elements such as gratuitous sex and crazy exploits. I wanted jokes which are rooted in reality. And I just think if that's your vision for the film, you're directing the wrong film with Police Academy.
Yeah.
So the director found out that the shower scene, the beach party scene, and the podium scene, shall we call it, were obligatory. He had to put them in. So he was trying to stuck with making those scenes as realistic and artistic as possible. But clearly these aren't realistic or artistic scenes that he's dealing with here. So
not artistic.
So the compromise they reached was that they wouldn't actually show any of the gratuitous parts, such as when the police captain gets fired into the rear end of a horse, and the podium scene is kind of edited in a certain way. But the director's point is that grossness, rudeness, crudeness goes so far before the audience finds it terribly repetitive and not so funny. I think my point here is that I really, really want to see that police academy that's true to the vision of the studio executives. It's not often that you side with the money men over the artistic.
No, absolutely not.
But here, I just think they missed the trick. Police Academy, and we'll get into it, is a funny, good, solid film. But if it had gone further down that direction, I think, and erred less on the director's side of trying to make it realistic and plausible, more gross out humor, more nudity, perhaps more pushing at the envelope, then I think it would have made for a better film. So I think what you've got here is a compromise, and it's a diluted version of Porky's. I think that does kind of count against the film a little bit, and I think that comes down to the director. That's where I would point the finger from my side.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. I didn't capture that when I looked at the trivia. So that, yeah, I agree. I want to see that one.
If you watch the film with that in mind, that why does it veer between one thing and another in certain points? I think that's the explanation.
So I mean, there's ways to look at. I mean, there's ways to look at the film yourself. Is this Mahoney's film? Is it a journey for Mahoney? And subsequently, the action that's repeated in Police Academy is repeated again in Police Academy 4. God, it's a dreadful film. But in Police Academy 4, David Spade and yet another unknown actor are skateboarding everywhere. They get pulled up and basically in front of the court, and Mahoney steps in and goes, "Can we take them to the Police Academy?" And you're like thinking, okay, I understand that history repeating itself. That's good, because he wants to see them on the same trajectory. They never came back after that film, but neither did Steve Guttenberg. So he left.
4 was his last one.
4 was his last one. I'm surprised 4 was his last one. I mean, he should have just taken a look at the script. From a rose-tinted spectacles point of view, I've always said on this podcast, oh yeah, the Police Academy films, oh, they're wonderful. They don't get better as they get on, but they're good enough. One is 7.5. I don't know what I'd give 2, but it's pretty good. I like 3. I like Back in Training. And then you have the appalling Citizens on Patrol, Police Academy 4. The worse than that, Police Academy 5, Assignment Miami Beach. And I'm halfway through, and I think I might just turn it off. Police Academy 6, City Under Siege.
The real turkey though is the Mission to Moscow, isn't it? That's the one that actually somehow managed to lose money,
which has barely anybody in it.
On a shoestring. Yeah.
Crikey! I was about to make the joke that if you want to start war with Russia, just get them to watch Mission to Moscow. But however, that's probably not it's probably contentious statement to make at this point. But yeah,
I suppose it'd be less funny with the current regime in place when the Police Academy takes a dark and sinister edge.
But in fact, do you know what? It's a good time for me to tell you this, which I basically found out about the films and what they did. Okay, so Police Academy cost $4.5 million to make. Worldwide gross was just shy of 150 million. Police Academy 2, $7.5 million to make. It makes 114 million. Police Academy 3, 12 million to make, gets back 107 million. So far, so good. Hey, everybody. Then it gets to Police Academy 4, 17 million to make, brings in 76. Police Academy 5, 13 million to make, brings in 54. And Police Academy 6, 14.5 to make, brings in 33. And you think, and I was one of those people that went to see them. I went and saw every single one of them at the cinema. And I remember laughing at the time, but it's probably because I was invested in the characters and went, oh, look, whatever they do, oh, there's wacky people,
But being that little bit younger than you, Charlie, as I like to mention,
yeah.
I didn't go and watch them live in the cinema, but I remember renting on VHS, as you mentioned earlier, watching the first one, then the next weekend being able to rent the second one. We didn't get all the way through the franchise, but we must have watched 4, perhaps 5 back to back over successive weeks, and really enjoying it. And obviously, you're not a real connoisseur of film at that age, but yeah, really, as a family, it was a great thing to sit down and watch. Even though I now look at the first one and it's not exactly family friendly, but I guess people were more liberal, weren't they, back in the 80s and 90s?
Absolutely. And I was going to say that the top grossing films in 1984. Where do you think it fits?
I think, well, I bet it's top 10 in terms of take, and then I guess in terms of profitability, obviously given that it was made pretty cheaply, it must probably be one of the most profitable. But yeah,
well,
top 10.
it's a. I'm gonna see if you can throw out some 1984 films, and then I'll see if they're on the list.
I'm on much less firm ground here.
All right.
So I'm thinking, it was at the era of the first Indiana. Is that around then?
The second one.
Second one. Okay.
Comes in at number 2. That took 100 in the US and Canada alone, 179 million.
Okay, so talking Indiana Jones. Is this too early for Back to the Future?
It's 1 year too early for Back to the Future.
Go on, put me on my misery.
Number 1, Ghostbusters, 220 million.
Yeah.
Number 3, Gremlins, 148 million. Number 4, Beverly Hills Cop, 103 million. Number 5, I know you're going to take the piss out of me, The Karate Kid, with 90 million.
Oh, yeah.
And number 6, with a domestic, with just the USA, is 81 million. It's Police Academy, beating Footloose, Star Trek 3, Romancing the Stone, Splash, Bachelor Party, which is one of my favourite, but I don't like many Tom Hanks films, but I do like that one.
Well, 1984 was like the quintessential year for 80s mass market movie making, then, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, yeah. So that's the revenue figures, obviously, that you're citing there. I guess I bet profit. I reckon it was in the top 3. It's going to be, because it was so cheap to make.
Yeah. So it was, it was popular. Maybe because people just wanted that sort of screwball comedy. Beverly Hills Cop is a comedy, but it's also got very dark themes in it as well. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, the guy's heart gets ripped out. It might be a fun rip-roaring, adventure, but there's some really dark stuff in there. So maybe they went, I don't know, should we just switch our brains off for an hour and a half, go watch Police Academy?
Yeah.
Why not? Yeah.
100%, yeah.
Worked at the time. Should we do roll call?
Let's do it.
Okay, here's roll call.
Roll call.
So I know you've done a list. I know you, and I have my favourites out of this list. So let's start with who made Steve Guttenberg a star.
I've got to start with an apology, because regular listeners will love my Oscars chat, where I shoehorn in an Oscars reference.
I thought you were going to do
that. No. But even I was defeated with, because believe it or not, and I know this is quite a stretch, but there are no people associated with this film who've been remotely near the Oscars, Academy Awards, BAFTAs, or even got a bronze swimming certificate when they were children. There's just no awards backstory here.
There must have been a Razzie. There must have been a Razzie at some point for one of them.
Negative awards. Perhaps I should have investigated that more closely. So yeah, just an apology. No Oscars banter today, I'm afraid. Because this roll call could be fairly slim pickings, is my view. Because I think with a couple of exceptions, they were mainly jobbing actors, weren't they?
Well, yeah. I mean, if Steve Guttenberg, I'm not afraid to say I'm a fan of the Village People movie. Can't Stop the Music. It's so I think it's 78. Steve Guttenberg's in that. He's also in Diner. Mickey Rourke, Daniel Stern. He's doing Cocoon and Short Circuit at the same time, because the Police Academy films. I'm surprised any of the sequels hit, if I'm really honest, because they made one every year until it started. Literally 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89. Then there's a break, and then there's 91 for Mission to Moscow. And you're like, God, they were just churning them out. They never left the set. They just kept going. And in between that, Steve Guttenberg must go, do you know what? I think I'm better than this. I've been in Cocoon, Short Circuit, which isn't great. But then he has his breakout moment in his mind, I suppose, with Three Men and a Baby. And then goes, oh, that's it. Made it, Ma. Top of the world. Destined for greatness. And all he makes after that is Three Men and a Little Lady, which is one of those rare better sequels.
I know he's often cited as being the kind of main example of somebody whose career just, died and disappeared. But it is true, when you look at his filmography, then after 1990, essentially it was nothing. And it's, he's not the world's greatest actor and he's not the world's most charismatic leading man, but he's not hopeless either, is he? And you just wonder what happened, why it was that dried up. Because compared to his peers, if you look at the guys that he's in Three Men and a Baby with, I don't think he's out of his depth in that film. So
no, not at all. He's very good. He's good in both of those films, which then surprised me because so when I'm doing my research, you're right, it stops at that time, and he's left with such films as P.S. Your Cat is Dead, and an animated film which nobody else famous is in called Heidi Fourpaws, and I'm like, when you fall, Steve Guttenberg, you fall. Now, there will be people listening to this going, hey, whoa, lay off Steve Guttenberg. I like Cocoon. There's lots of people that like Cocoon. I'm not one of them, but loads of people like it, and I get it. I understand why you would like it. But it almost feels like the devil appeared at the end of 1990 and went, right, I told you I'd make you a star, and the 90s are going to be great for you. Sign here. And he went, nah. And he went, well, I'm too big to fail. Oh, well, there you go.
He let's hope he burnt brightly, and faded away. But let's hope he made his money in those six or seven short years.
He did. I'm sure. Do you know what? And looking at this, I'm sure we could do like a separate thing about where are they now. But anyway, on to G.W. Bailey, Captain Harris. I always knew him as Mash from Rizzo. Rizzo from Mash. Sorry. Sergeant Rizzo. So there's lots of people that appeared in MASH, which is why I think it's, I thank my dad that he gave me an early education by saying, sit down and watch this. You're going to see some very good actors in this. You're going to see it's going to be very funny. And he was right on both accounts. But then you look in the 80s and went, oh, look, it's somebody from MASH. Oh, look, it's somebody from MASH. And because they cut their acting chops on series like that, which then gave them prevalence in the 80s. He was also in St. Elsewhere, which I haven't watched since it was on, but I remember it was good, but I don't think it must have been that good because I couldn't tell you a lot about it. He also is in Short Circuit, so we've got Steve Guttenberg and G.W. Bailey reunited. We've also got him in Mannequin, where he plays a security guard, reunited with Kim Cattrall. He's in Ace Ventura 2. He's in a hugely successful series called The Closer, which had about 120 episodes he was in. Never seen it, don't know. But you mentioned Tom Selleck. He was also in a film called Runaway, which is there's a documentary called In Search for Tomorrow. If you can find it, rent it. It's 5 hours long, and you think, wait a minute. And what it is, it's a love of all things 80s. And they just take all of these films, science fiction films, and show you and interview the stars as they are now. It's brilliant, especially when they get to Predator and they get Jesse Ventura. And it's perfect. But they interview, not interview G.W. Bailey, but they talk about Runaway, which is about where robots are integrated in society, but yet they turn evil and stuff. Runaway is a good kitsch film, But anyway, I'm going to say next, Kim Cattrall. I'm going to throw it to you, Dom.
So obviously best known for her role in Sex and the City. I actually thought it was quite refreshing in Police Academy to see her when she was actually young and attractive, because I've always been a little bit skeptical. I'm not trying to body shame Kim Cattrall.
Right, okay.
Who am I to speak? But I've always thought she looked like a bit of a wizened old drag act in Sex and the City. So to actually see her when she was younger and more beautiful, I think you do see.
Blimey.
She was such a sex symbol, I suppose. But so best known for Sex and the City. if I was on it, I was racking my brains. What films has she been in? And of course, I checked on Wikipedia, but I could only remember her being in Mannequin, which I think she's pretty famous for. But also one of my daughter's favourite films. Rose will be listening to this pod with me later. Horrible Histories, the movie in 2019. Probably not top of anybody else's.
I didn't get her in that.
Yeah, she was the mother of the Roman emperor. So,
oh, Rose, I'm really sorry for what I'm about to say next. I'm really sorry. We didn't like it. We love the series. Just the film we nearly walked out of it. Yeah, sorry. Right. Anyway, moving on. Before I get to, I can see I can even feel the evil glare from now.
I think I've called her a wizened old woman, and you've slagged off her performance in Our Horrible Histories. So, Kim, if you're listening, we don't mean it.
Oh, we know. Well, I know she might be good friends with Robert Downey Jr., and we know he listens to the podcast, of course. I was about to say I first saw it in Porky's, but I didn't. I mean, I saw Porky's later, probably 3 or 4 years later, where she played Lassie, and she got her name because she howled during sex, basically, and she got turned on. She got turned on by men's sweat. So if you took her to the locker room, it's just like, and I remember she looked incredible. I think Kim Cattrall has always looked incredible. Maybe not so now. Maybe not. I don't know because I haven't seen. But in Mannequin, she looks incredible. She looks really good. Of course, she was also in Big Trouble in Little China with Kurt Russell. The quite wonderful 1992 film Split Second with Rutger Hauer. She plays his wife. She's Lieutenant Valeris in Star Trek VI. I won't spoil it for you, but she's quite integral to the plot. She's in the David Lynch series Wild Palms. Obviously, as you mentioned, Dom, Sex and the City, and the films. I would like you to check out Mark Kermode's review. Just type it into YouTube. Mark Kermode's review of Sex and the City 2. Might be one of my favourite things of all time.
Yeah, and I have heard it, and it's fantastic. But I think she was only in Sex and the City film singular, wasn't it? Wasn't she the one that actually had some integrity and didn't go back for the second one?
I thought she was in the. I thought she was in the second one.
How many have they made? Have they done 3?
2. Oh, they've done 3. She wasn't in the third.
Oh yeah. I'm mixed up between 2 and 3.
And then she didn't go back to the series because they didn't want her, and the series tanked. Well, if you take away the best thing about a TV series, it will tank. And she was the best thing by a country mile in Sex and the City.
There's that pithy summary of Sex and the City, isn't it? Which is 4 single women acting like 4 gay men, and that's your basic plot for Sex and the City, I think.
But anyway, she's in stuff that I haven't seen. A show called Producing Parker was pretty big for her. A show called Sensitive Skin. And she's also in which I assume is the sister or brother show. I don't know what I'm supposed to call it now. To How I Met Your Mother. She's in the Apple TV series How I Met Your Father. So I might go and check it out actually. Now that I've written it down.
You're more of a fan of hers than I'd realised. I feel bad with my.
No, I mean I just look when you create characters iconic. Is Sarah Jessica Parker an iconic character? Yes, I would say so. Definitely. It's Carrie Bradshaw. As Samantha, Kim Cattrall, one-upmanships. I can remember, I can't tell you the other 2. And I watched it. Cynthia Nixon, I think, and the other one. But people, what you watched for that, if she's not in it, I'm not watching it. So whatever it was called, and Just Like That, or whatever the new series was called, not interested. Bubba Smith, moving on.
We've dealt with the mainstream. Let's go.
Here we go. Yeah, join us for this. Go and make a cup of coffee or something and come back. It's fine. Or just take us with you. Stick the earpods in and take us with you. Bubba Smith. I've got. He was an NFL player, a quite successful one. And he was also in, and I've just bought it on DVD. I've ordered it from eBay and it arrived last week. Blue Thunder, the TV series, where he played the character, wait for it, Bubba.
On my notes, I've got also appeared in Blue Thunder, pause for Charlie's recollections of Blue Thunder.
That's it. That's all we've got.
I knew you'd be a fanboy. But I thought, yeah, you're right. It's a very successful NFL player who then went on to star in a very successful comedy. Hopefully that's where the parallels with O.J. Simpson ended, and there was no wife from it, so it's gone unreported.
I mean, he died in 2011. So
yeah, a very, very sad circumstance. I know this is supposed to be an upbeat pod and we talk about comedy, but I did make a note of it because it was a bit of a downer. Wikipedia. Bubba Smith was found dead in his LA home by his caretaker in 2011. He died from acute drug intoxication and heart disease. Fentanyl, a weight loss drug, was found in his system. His heart weighed more than twice that of an average similar male.
Oh, God.
Years old. Yeah, well, there you go. So long, and thanks for all the memories, Bubba. But yeah, some way to go out. And far from the only one that had less than a happy end to their career and their life, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, we've got this coming up. I've got Donovan Scott. He played the rotund gentleman barber that got picked upon by the bullies and then got his comeuppance. Oh, sorry, got his revenge back at the end. Okay, I've got two things. I'll start with the least obscure. He was the deputy in Back to the Future 3.
Okay.
But the best, this is great. He starred in the Olivia Newton-John physical video. Let's get physical, right? And in the credits, he's put as Donovan Scott, guy getting powdered by Olivia Newton-John.
Well,
I mean, there's worse things. Yeah. Well, exactly. Plenty of us would have liked to, but yeah.
That's nice counterbalance to Bubba Smith's sad end, isn't it?
Absolutely,
so,
yes. And so we've got a guy getting powdered by Olivia Newton-John. George Gaines, Commandant Lassard. Starred in Tootsie with Dustin Hoffman. He was in one episode of the Blue Thunder TV series, and you're like, hello, hi Bubba, hi George. But I think he was probably most famous for, outside of Police Academy, the TV series Punky Brewster, which there were like 4 seasons of. So people probably know him from that, and then know him from Police Academy. But he's one of my favorite characters in this.
Do you think so? Because I just think he suffers in comparison to Leslie Nielsen, who I just think would have. I think the actual producers or director wanted for this, but couldn't get him.
Right. Okay. I didn't get that, and that would be, that would be better.
So I think the famous podium scene, if we're referring to that in a family-friendly way, it was very well done. It made me laugh when I watched it on.
It's still good though.
The other day, yeah, definitely. But with Leslie Nielsen's comic timing and facial kind of acting, I just think could have. That'd be something I'd love to see. Yeah. So
no, I can't. The sacrilege. I can't replace George Gaines on that. It's just so well done. Let us just for a moment reflect on this slide. Take a moment to reflect on this slide.
But you've upset me mentioning that he was in Tootsie. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, he was.
That was my Oscars moment, wasn't it? Because that.
Oh God, yeah. Sorry.
It was at least nominated, wasn't it? I think, and maybe won. So.
Well, never mind.
There were so many people in this film. It's impossible to prepare properly for the call. If we try and do them all, we'll be here forever. But that was my way in, and I missed it.
Sorry. Whoops. David Graff, Tackleberry. All I remember him, he played Sam in the Brady Bunch movie, the remake in the 90s, the Brady Bunch movie, which I thought was very good. He was in the Ferris Bueller TV show, and that's all we'll say about that, because I don't want anybody to even Google it. Do not go and Google Ferris Bueller TV show. It is a travesty of the worst, and it's an assault on our family movie. So in the first episode, the guy that's playing Ferris Bueller rips up a photo of Matthew Broderick as Ferris Bueller, breaking the fourth wall. And I go, see you later. Bye. Bye.
That sounds like a bit heavy-handed symbolism there.
Oh. Anyway, sadly, David Graff died just shy of his 52nd birthday in 2001.
Yeah, didn't have a good innings, did he?
No, not at all. Leslie Easterbrook. Do you know, I've temporarily just forgotten her name and I didn't write it down.
Is that Laverne, the one with the small voice, the little whisper?
No, that's Marion. I didn't put her down because she didn't do anything. She literally just did Police Academy. So did Leslie Easterbrook. So it's probably a good idea to move on to Michael Winslow, who also had a film out, or a film around this time in the 80s. He was not only, I mean, we'll get to his unique abilities, but he was the voice of the Mogwai Gremlins. I had no idea, but it's him.
Well, he is the self-styled man of 10,000 sound effects, isn't he? So
he's very good.
Gremlins are in there too. That's good to know.
Do you think he does? Do you think he can? Do you think he can do all of those sound effects?
I have to admit, when I rewatched it, I did think, did he do it in dub? Was it dubbed afterwards? But no, apparently that was him. And he is, because the way he was cast, I think he was like the last person to be cast, and they just shoehorned him in. They hadn't written a part for him, but because they knew he was funny, I think one of the producers had seen him in a show beforehand. They just basically created this part for him, and his role in this is just almost exclusively to make comedy sound effects, and he does it really well. And I remember when I watched it when I was younger, he was everyone's favorite character, and everyone thought it was mind-blowing what he could do, and it is genuinely impressive. But he's had a long, happy, successful career out of doing just this for
absolutely. And when I googled some, just to watch some sort of stuff behind the scenes, Michael Winslow came up, and he was actually on America's Got Talent. So as himself, and he went, and Simon Cowell did the usual, oh, I think I know you. Of course you do. It's Michael Winslow. What? Don't do that Susan Boyle surprise thing that you were told in the before you sat down in your chairs. Oh, that gets me every time. If I see Amanda Holden's shocked face one more time, I may just put something through the TV. You've got it written down in front of you. You were told a week ago. There is no surprise here.
I can't believe you're questioning the integrity of these international talent spotting shows.
I know. Well, yes, Britain's Got Talent. Michael Winslow was also in Spaceballs, providing his unique abilities again in Spaceballs. I get that; it's fine. But How the Mighty Fall again. I looked down the credits. Films, nothing. Sharknado 3.
Sharknado.
We all do it. They all do it at some point. John Hurd, Kevin McAllister, Macaulay Culkin's dad in Home Alone, was in Sharknado 1. Tara Reid, who played one of the hot girlfriends in American Pie.
I remember her. Yeah.
Yeah, she was in number 4.
Well, you and I'll be in number 5 at this rate, then, yeah.
They've made 5 and 6.
Oh, okay.
So it's up to number 7 now. I would have expected by now a Sharknado defense of some sort, but
when Michael Winslow swerves it, it's time for Dom and Charles. That's normally, yeah.
Yes, Sharknado, where careers go to be, well, even more dead than they were before you went in. But anyway, the plot. I mean, there is no plot. People join the police academy and end up thwarting a riot at the end. I mean, what can you say about this?
Well, it is essentially one joke stretched over 90 minutes. Not normal police people, but they're in a police situation, and we're going to put them in a riot, in a street scene, in various training things. But yeah, it's simple but effective.
Yes.
Are we going to go through through the show, or do you want to be more?
No. Well, no, because well, it's set pieces. It's things you remember. For some people, it's the horse, the scene with the horse. For me, it's a joint first between the podium scene and the Blue Oyster Bar, which I just think is just it's the gag that keeps on giving. They milked that gag all the way through the police academies. You know, even the podium, even the hooker, should we call her? The hooker came back in Police Academy 3 and reprised her role again. And you're like thinking, absolutely. If you need something to remind you how good the first one was, bring them all back. That's fine. The Blue Oyster Bar, to my shame, but I mean, you know, when people were growing up, they weren't. I wasn't as cosmopolitan or world affair, but I would always refer to it and say, "Well, don't go in there." You know,
I knew you were going to say that.
I know, but it's just something that we did. I mean, we're not proud of it, but
which part of the country did you go to school in?
Shropshire.
So I went to school in Yorkshire, and we had exactly the same thing. So,
Yeah.
you know, if anybody suggested anything that was slightly fancy, which in Yorkshire, you know,
pretty much
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, then it was, are you off to the Blue Oyster Bar? You know, let's go. Do you want to come round to my house after school? No, he's going round to the Blue Oyster Bar. You know, shorthand for anything vaguely effeminate. And
I don't feel so bad now.
No, but I think that was like that in school playgrounds. The whole, you know, it was shorthand in this country, and maybe further afield as well for anything anything gay.
Yeah, but the gag works. No doubt.
They've got a gag that works. They will milk it dry. But yeah, it's very, very funny. I think the only thing that made it funnier because they revisit even in this first film, don't they? They revisit it, and at the end, they're dancing to slow music, and one of the policemen's asleep on the shoulder.
Asleep with the other one's eyes open in fear, just like get me out of here.
Yeah, it would have been even funnier, I think, if they'd been enjoying it. I don't mean in a really explicit way, but you know, like smart. You know, they'd come to terms with it. But yeah, that was the Blue Oyster scene, classic, and entered the public consciousness. I think that as I rewatched the we're going to call her the hooker in this, I thought to myself that they'd really gone for the seedy end. You know, there was no kind of Julia Roberts style trying to dress it up in pretty as something more glamorous and. She looked like a genuine.
She looked like $20. Yeah.
Yeah, she did. She looked like she'd been at the end of a long shift, really, to be honest. And I thought that was a strange choice. And then, what did you think of the actual podium scene then, first time round?
First time round, I have to tell you that I'm not going to share too much, but my parents were a bit slight on sex education, so I didn't know why it was funny. The first bit, but then gradually, as I went into the school, and then went, oh, Police Academy, yeah, and then somebody would explain it, and you go, yeah, of course, it's really funny. They did what? So yeah, now I found it funny at the time because everybody else found it funny, and his reaction was funny, but now I know it just makes it doubly so.
Yeah, well, it was funny. He did it well, as I say. Back of my mind, there was Howard Leslie Nielsen have done it. But what I thought was quite good about that scene is it happens, it's very funny. And then unusually for this film, there's like a follow-up bit, which is he glances over his shoulder, kind of perplexed as to what's just happened. And he's crawling out from underneath it. They catch the eye. So there's that dynamic there as well, which I thought was pretty funny.
That is good. That does make the scene.
But that's another example, though, of where, like, we've just talked about two famous scenes, which the director actively didn't want to include and was forced to, you know, told it was mandatory in no negotiation that they were in there. So I think it's good that the studio held their line with these scenes, because other famous scenes include the beach party scene.
I love that
scene. Which
Tackleberry's the funniest thing for that is Tackleberry trying to find his mouth with the end of the saxophone because he's just looking at all of this nudity on display.
Yeah, that made me.
That's funny.
I think again, growing up in a school in Yorkshire, I assume that's what all, you know, Americans were doing with the party. That was what an American party looked like. So everybody goes out to the beach, gets absolutely loaded, and all the women take their tops off. So, yeah.
Well, Of course. While we're on the subject of inappropriate references, I'm surprised it's not flagged up. This film contains dated references to historical names for African American people, especially that scene. I have my own copy of Police Academy, and so I'm not a big fan of censorship. I'm not. Well, in fact, I'm not a fan of censorship at all. A thing would have been created, whether it's a piece of music, whether it's a sculpture, whether it's a movie. It's created, and it's a point in time. Han didn't shoot first in Star Wars, but they went back and just went, "Oh, I think we need to correct that." No, keep it as it is. That's how it is. Han Solo is a scoundrel, self-styled. He shoots first, of course. In this particular one, it makes me uncomfortable to watch it, but I always watch it and go, well, it's a thing of the time. We're going to find references in this, as we talked about the podcast, as you and I have talked about. Eddie Murphy uses the same sort of language, and you're kind of like, look, it's a product of the time. By all means, I don't want you to have your warnings, but if that's what makes you feel better, then fine. But don't touch it. I saw today. I know this is slightly off point, but it's relevant. The ITV have censored the original Spider-Man film with Tobey Maguire because it contains a reference when he's fighting in the cage as first Spider-Man trying to earn some money. He's made his own suit. He says down to the guy, "Who made your costume?" Did your husband make it? Ha 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 ha. Then ITV have cut the line out completely. And you're like, fine, we're in this age now where, it only takes a couple of people to get offended by it. But yeah.
No, definitely. But I think Police Academy is like an equal opportunities offender. So actually, it doesn't just target people from black people. It's offensive towards gay people. It's offensive towards the elderly. It's offensive towards women. I think it's kind of just, it has that sort of humor, which clearly isn't going to appeal to everybody. I'm sure there's a reason that Amanda's not doing this podcast this evening. But
women have power. Everyone has their own bit of power.
Well, I thought that, in the kind of ranking, I'm very conscious it's two white middle-aged guys talking to each other about this, so there'll be those who roll their eyes at anything we say here. But
there'll be some people that have never watched YouTube and gone, "What? Two middle-aged?" Yeah, sorry. I am.
The people who were offensive towards black people were characters who were clearly signposted and supposed to be idiots and the baddies themselves. So any kind of racial slurs which were issued were by unsympathetic characters. So that makes it okay, but that kind of contextualizes it. It was more the kind of, if you're a woman watching this film, I think the casual sexism spouted by all characters, good, bad, or indifferent, would probably be more problematic. Like the women in it there's the PT instructor that we've not really talked about yet, who again created a very big impression on me when I was younger. Plus, Kim Cattrall's character as well. They are there to be eye candy. Really, that's their kind of role. That's the extent of it. So I think it's on a sliding scale of offensiveness. It's probably women and homosexual people who get the shortest end of the stick. Really, maybe there's even a bit of a redemption arc for some of for Hightower and the policeman with the breathy voice whose name I've forgotten, policewoman.
But I don't think the Blue Oyster Bar looks like somewhere you would. It would be somewhere that if you did stumble it by accident, you just end up having a good time in there. I don't know. I mean,
not intended. Yeah.
No, but you just it's just like when we talk about
sorry, isn't it? Steve Guttenberg gets up at one point and says sleeps for F word, derogatory term for gays, and that kind of it clearly is a line that wouldn't be uttered these days.
No, absolutely. But you know what? Things are boring these days. So that's the date. I'm not justifying that in any shape or form. What I'm saying is, if you've got that on one extreme, and you've got examples, certainly the 80s and the 90s of extreme, now we seem to have the other extreme, which is kind of like the puritanical, which is you can't mention anything like that. Yeah.
No, look, I think one of the reasons I enjoyed the film was because it is of its time, and if you enjoy that time, the 80s, as clearly we both do, it's very evocative, and I think that it is. I don't mean the offensiveness is refreshing, but it's just refreshing to dip back into a different time, and I liked it. And I thought it's a very, very 80s film, isn't it? And that for me is a strength.
Absolutely, yeah.
I can see why some people, probably our daughter's generation, maybe a bit older, wouldn't appreciate it.
Absolutely. You've got the lunacy of Tackleberry. Tackleberry's a good character. I think he's a strong character in that. They're all supportive of each other, apart from the two that are the bad guys. You think, oh, okay, well, we've got some Spanish, we've got a Spanish guy in there. We've got but the Spanish guy turns out to be George.
The Lothario.
The Lothario, yeah.
Yeah.
Who the instructor, Leslie Easterbrook, I wish I had her name because I'll just keep mentioning it. I think it was...
Is it Callahan, I think?
Callahan, yeah. She basically jumps him. So, yeah, if you've got a problem with coercion, then...
Well, having just had a brief discussion on sexism, are we allowed to say, "Wow, isn't she gorgeous?" As a young lad watching this film, she was definitely.
She was, and in that scene where she takes her, the hair's always been up, and you've always seen that she takes her hair down. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm in. I'm enjoying this now.
There's that scene when she does the judo throw on that guy and pins him to the floor and then asks who's next, and then there's a flood of male volunteers, which is just it's not even a well-written joke, is it? But it does. I think it'll get a laugh out of every man watching that scene.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's. I mean, the film flows pretty. The film flows pretty well. You have this scene at the end with the riot where everyone's coming together. If you were watching on YouTube, if you were listening, you would have heard, machine gun fire. That was Michael Winslow's character doing that, in order to get people off the car. If you were watching, then you would have seen that in the trailer. It has an ending, which is, Bubba Smith, because he reacts to the language being used, tips the car over with the guy in it. And gets kicked out of the academy, and has said at the start that he'd always wanted to be a florist. I'm a florist. This is what I do, which is one of those gags is, oh yeah, of course, you're 6'5", and of course you're a florist. But he ends up being the one saving the day at the end, and you're like, so to go back and say this film is full of references that wouldn't stand up today. Everyone's too good. Everyone's working together,
Yeah, look, I think the best part of the film is the start and the middle, and I think when they have to kind of bring it to a conclusion, in a way that other films don't really have that much of a plot. It is more of a sequence of jokes, and then they'll kind of wrap it up at the end. This did try to go a bit more serious, didn't it, with the riot scene and the hostage scene on the roof. And I felt it was less successful. But you are right. Hightower is the kind of hero of the final act, and to your point at the start, is this a Mahoney movie or not? Well, actually, I think the power of it for me is the ensemble cast that they've got. I think Bubba Smith acquits himself really well. I think him and Tackleberry are probably the two strongest, best written, if you can say that about a police academy film, characters in the supporting thing. I don't think Steve Guttenberg's got the chops to carry something like this all by himself. So I think he's pretty reliant on those. And I think that Bubba Smith, Hightower does a really credible job in this.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is a shame he's not in more things. Okay, well, I think that's the film. We've got plenty. I know you've got trivia. I know I've got trivia. But before we go into trivia time, we need to give a nod to 3 pieces of information that I didn't know about Police Academy. Number one, they made a series in 1988 to 89. There were 2 seasons of it. They made 65 episodes. It was a cartoon series. which was half the cadets and half a group of talking police dogs.
Well, I mean, you're the guru on obscure TV, but no,
It's supposed to be. No idea.
It's funny that because the UK, for our American and international listeners, it was a kind of TV desert in the 80s and 90s. So very few number of actual channels, no satellites really until much later. So things, people used to sit around and watch the same shows, and a common way of filling the schedules was to do cheap American imports, so they would often become quite popular over here. So something like that sounds like it's got the raw ingredients to actually be popular. It's a successful film franchise which landed well and was as part of a cultural language in the UK for school children at least. And so I'm surprised nobody took a punt on that. But no, I've never heard of that before.
No, we got things like Cheers though. And if I'm allowed to say it, the Cosby Show. I mean, I love the Cosby Show. It was a great series.
You dipped a toe in the controversial water earlier with some of the debate we've had. You're going to stick your whole foot in now.
No. I'm going to steer the ship away from that now. But yeah, if it wasn't for Channel 4, I wouldn't have seen an awful lot of this. I wouldn't have seen an awful lot of the things going on because the BBC would like, oh, we're not touching that. And they'd be lucky. It might go on BBC Two. I know it was BBC Two that championed Twin Peaks, but again, that was 91. So it's 1991. That's brave to take on Twin Peaks but Twin Peaks was I can't say the word, phenomenon. I can't say it all in one go. It's my duck word. I can't say it. Please don't write in to say, can I say it 3 times in a row? Because it would just end up like word soup. It'll be awful. Then after I assume Abomination, I did have a look on YouTube. This one definitely is. They made a Police Academy series, 97 to 98, with 1 season, 26 episodes, where the instructor, Michael Winslow, the captain, and Tackleberry all come back as guest stars in episodes.
I knew Winslow would be involved. Yeah.
It is dreadful. By all means, go and look at the first episode on YouTube. Sorry,
they don't rip up a picture of Gutenberg, do they, on the first episode in a nod to
no. Well, it's not even it doesn't even feel faithful to the TV series. Of course, all the familiar things are there, the flute music at the start, everything that makes you go, oh, nostalgia, it's great, wonderful. No, just leave it alone.
Hey, we didn't pay enough love to that theme music that they have there. That's as soon as you hear it, bang, you're back to
as soon as you hear it, I smile because I'm like thinking, I'm thinking about something like that. And for the last one, I didn't write it down. So this is probably where you go, oh, Charles, you're actually looking at the camera for the first time. I can't master looking at the camera, which is why I do that. But there is, if you can believe it, a Police Academy show. Basically, if the people that know the Police Academy Stunt Spectacular, the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, which was at Disney. What happened in this was there was a show that you go and see, and there'd be lots of things going on. They did the same for Police Academy, and it's just the fact. This is where I'd want to see Dom's reaction, and I'm gonna flip from reading, and I'm gonna see your reaction to this last bit. It was at Six Flags Magic Mountain in 1994. It was at Warner Brothers Movie World Germany, and there was a whole plot to it with all the madcap and stuff, and there were stunts in it. But it was also at Warner Brothers Movie World in Australia until 2008. And there's me flicking back because there is I'm thinking of watching this show in 2007 and you're 10 and you're going, oh, this will be great. Is it like Indiana Jones in Disney? Sort of. There's fire and cars flip and things like that. Madcap things. People crawl up flagpoles and fall off. Oh, whoops. Comedy sound effect. What's it based on? Police Academy. What? Yeah. Police Academy. Nope. No, Mum, I was born in 1997. It's the film, with the guy with the guns and No. Oh, I guess we haven't seen. I guess we haven't shown you Police Academy. Anyway, just enjoy the show. How many people watch that show and go, "What are these references?" I just don't get it.
No, that is an obscure.
They closed the Jaws ride at Disney, and yet the Police Academy Stunt Spectacular went on until 2008.
Yeah, no, that is baffling.
Mad doesn't even cover it. Anyway, it is about that time. I'm going to let you go first, but I am going to introduce trivia time. So let's introduce trivia time.
Trivia time.
So, Dom, what you got?
Well, look, I feel like I did Bubba Smith a disservice earlier when I lingered on the sad circumstances of his death. So I'm going to remember him in happier times. So when he was in negotiations for Police Academy 7, he became aware that Laverne's character wasn't in the script, and they'd struck up a close friendship working on the franchise previously. So in real life, the actress had fallen on hard times financially. And so Bubba Smith took the principled stand that he agreed to be in the film as long as a part was written for her, which I thought reflected really well on him. What reflected less well on the producers was they called his bluff, said no, and hence why Hightower's not in Police Academy 7.
Very few of them are.
But he was one of the ones they offered a part, but he refused to do it because they wouldn't write a part for his friend who had been in hard times and was suffering financially. So I thought, round of applause for Bubba Smith there.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. I mean, from Mission to Moscow, Michael Winslow's in it, Tycho Berry's in it, Captain Harris is in it, the instructor's in it, and Lassard's in it. That's it. There's nobody else.
I'm almost tempted to watch it out of a sense of morbid curiosity. I did feel like watching 2 or 3, but maybe I'll just jump to that and see just how.
I'll let you borrow my copy. Do you want to borrow my copy?
Yeah, well, funny you should say that. Yeah.
Well, yes, but I'll look. Which would I rather sit through? I don't remember too much about Mission to Moscow, apart from it was incredibly offensive. But that might turn out to be funny because 4 and 5 ain't. There's not even like set pieces. Assignment Miami Beach is about a swapped suitcase with Lassard, right? And the gangsters they make the gangsters from Long Good Friday look like, like professionals. Well, it's right. Weekend at Bernie's gangsters, right? They're not gangsters, they're not, but it fits with the film, right? It fits with the craziness of, dead guy being, hitting the balls repeatedly, great. But this, 5, I'm sorry. I'm going to shut up about the later films. I guess it's like I let go of my nostalgia balloon and it disappeared into the sky.
All right, but just for the record, though, because we talked about ranking things earlier. So, in terms of disappointing gangsters, are we saying that Longest Friday is beneath Police Academy 5 or above it?
Above it.
Meaning that they were
it's better.
Oh, they're better, right? Okay,
yes.
So the absolute rock bottom for you then.
Yeah, well.
I don't want to be in the same room as you when you're watching Police Academy 5 then. That's must get edgy.
Oh, it was just a series of disappointments. It's a series of just being slapped metaphorically around the head and going, what were you thinking? Why were you telling people that these are good films? Sharon Stone's in Police Academy 4. And even that barely makes a mark.
So go on, what would if we were scoring Police Academy 5, are we talking a 1 out of 10?
1.
Right, wow.
1. Police Academy 4. 2. So far in 6, maybe a 3. It's getting slightly better. It's filmed with a different lens, so it looks grittier, but it's not at all.
I don't think you ever really forgave me for giving Real Genius a 3, did you?
No, I won't. And you, Joe, listening, I'll never forgive you for The Breakfast Club. So you know where I stand on that. That's genius, but still, never mind. or you don't. But okay. So talking about Bubba Smith from Trivia Time, we could be going back and forth on this. I kind of like the way that we let's freestyle, The director, Hugh Wilson, stated that when it came time to film the driving scene with Hightower at 2:30 a.m., the actor originally cast as the angry driver was passed out drunk in the trailer. So the director ended up playing the role of the angry driver that Hightower crashes into because he had nobody else.
That was one of the ones that I'd seen.
Is that what, okay? I like that.
Hats off to the actor originally employed to be the driver. You had one job.
It's to stay sober.
I know it's a slightly antisocial hour, 2:30 in the morning, but you're getting paid for it. You're a professional. Oh no, you're dead drunk in your trailer. Well, fair play.
Yeah. Over to you.
No, look, I feel bad. I haven't prepared lots of trivia.
I thought you had a fair bit.
No, sorry.
Well, then ones I don't have, then we can do it that way. In the DVD making of documentary, which I do remember seeing, Hooks, Marion Ramsey, who we didn't talk about because she didn't do anything else apart from Police Academy. She based when she was reading the description of the character in the script, and she said that she met Michael Jackson, who attended a stage production of Little Shop of Horrors, in which she was performing in. So the voice is a parody of Jackson. She also recalls in the moment when Hooks explains, "Don't move, dirtbag." The sound techs were so used to recording and they turned the levels up because she's so meek, right, that they weren't expecting it, and said they were very surprised when she said the line so loud. What I think by that is, good God, man, take off their headphones and throw them to the ground and go, my ears are bleeding. Because
I didn't write this one down, but it does remind me of another piece of trivia about her, which I thought was interesting, was that they put she did the whole film in a fat suit, because part of the gag on her was, apart from being small and frail and weak sounding, she was also overweight as well.
Yeah.
But she was supposed to kind of shed it all through the training. That was supposed to be the gag. So at the end, she'd kind of be the slimmer individual, and then they lost interest / didn't think it would work. So she had to wear a fat suit unnecessarily through the whole of that film, and then through all the subsequent films she was in, she also had to wear it for continuity of character. So that was a bit unfortunate for the poor woman.
But there is a scene. Apparently, there's an outtake in the final scene when they're doing the march, when they're marching at the parade that's honouring Hightower, where she's not wearing it.
Well, okay.
And I haven't gone back and had a look at that.
Hey, this is just a quick departure from trivia time, but that final, very, very end of the scene, film that you talk about there, because the penultimate scene is Mahoney and Thompson, the Kim Cattrall character, getting together, and it's all very lovey-dovey and their bright futures together. And then the final scene is when Lassard gets his revenge on Mahoney and sets him up with the hooker underneath the podium as well. Didn't you think that was like a weird?
Yes, I did. Yeah, absolutely. Because she presumably, I think she was on the stage at that time, so she would have seen it. Yeah. Everyone on the stage would have seen it.
I just thought, you've gone from setting up your lives together to getting blown in front of your classmates. So interesting.
Is it a Christmas movie? Because well, do you want to go for the tenuous Christmas link?
Well, we thought Die Hard was a debate for the ages. I'm struggling. There's
no debate. It's a Christmas movie. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Is this a Christmas movie? I can't think of one possible connection. Is there a Christmas
when
tree?
Hooks is driving, she's singing, "You better watch out, you better not cry."
Oh yeah, no, she is. That's correct. I do remember
but that doesn't make it a Christmas movie.
Is it? Well,
a movie set at Christmas. It's a Christmas movie.
Okay.
Yeah. See how this works. So yeah. Okay.
I'm getting glimpses into how it works.
You're not in total agreement. I get that. The original VHS release sold 107,000 copies in the first week of release. This, combined with the 82 million the movie earned in US domestic sales, prompted Warner Brothers to greenlight Police Academy 2, the first assignment. I think the piece of trivia is wrong because the film would have been released in 84. Again, I'm going to give you a history lesson, kids. You had to wait 9 months. 9 months for the VHS, the home release. So this was May 84, 85. The film would have, the Police Academy 2 has already been greenlit. It's already been started. It's, you know, it's nearly finished by that point. So yeah, always beware what you read. That was it's impressive, and I'm sure the 107,000 copies matches up. But yeah, according to Hugh Wilson, the director, the original script played out at 2.5 hours long. A Dances with Wolves cut of Police Academy. He said it was as long as Gandhi. And he said for a nitwit comedy, that should have been no more than 102 pages.
I do think the editing in the film is a bit all over the place, really. Some jokes are kind of cut short, and then you've got jokes that are interspersed with one another. So I think they had a few issues in that department.
Yeah. The piece of trivia that I need to go to is the Blue Oyster Bar and how Blue Oyster Bar made its first appearance, but it's in the Police Academy 1, obviously, because it's twice. In the second movie, Sweet Chuck hides in the bar, gets into a brief dance, but manages to escape. They use it 3 times in the second movie, dealing with the gang and getting thrown out. Hightower beating up the gang members and getting arrested. It appears in there. In the third and fourth film, Proctor, who's the guy that's with Lieutenant Mauser, so there is no Harris. It's accidental. Yeah, and it's in the fourth film. They just keep milking it, and I yeah, as we talked about, there's a good reason for that. The composer based Police Academy theme on the theme from Stripes. Yep, go back and do a Stripes Police Academy double bill, and then just go, all right, okay.
I'm just going to upset you completely. I think the Police Academy one's more memorable.
Jeez.
I've said it.
Well, and do you know what? You're right. It is more memorable for people that, you know, I was going to say of a certain age or something. Stripes.
That's stupid. Then I thought it was going to come for people who are not connoisseurs of.
No. Well, if you mention, I mean, look up here for those on YouTube. For those who are listening on audio, I'm pointing at the pop figures that I've got. All 3 of those are from Stripes, because it's just one of my favorite films. I was about to say, well, they wouldn't make pop figures if it wasn't. They make pop figures for everything. You know, I mean, the slightest, you know, references, which is good for me because I can find. I'm waiting for the Howard the Duck and Better Off Dead pop figures, which will happen, I'm sure, at some point.
An above average film, as we all remember.
Above average. That's thank you, Amanda. But Stripes is the better film, but Police Academy resonates with more people because it was just captured something at the time. It captured lightning in a bottle and became the 6th highest in a tough field. I mean, Footloose. Which would I prefer to watch? Footloose or Police Academy? 2 completely different films. All depends upon my mood. Romancing the Stone. Not as good as you remember. It's still all right. Star Trek 3. The bad Star Trek films are always the odd numbers. The good Star Trek films are always the even numbers. That pretty much works. Star Trek 3 isn't great, but oh my God, it isn't Star Trek 5. Oh my God, would I rather watch Star Trek 5 or Police Academy 5? I would rather watch Police Academy 5.
I'll tell you what, if you're contemplating a podcast season on number 5 in film franchises, I think it's time to pack up the pod and go home because we've run out of ideas. What's the best 5th placed film in a franchise ever?
I've got a scoop for you at the end of the podcast and a scoop for the listeners.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you what the next season theme is.
Is it fifth films in a series?
No, definitely not.
Just keep it in the back pocket for now.
All right.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
I've got one more bit of trivia.
Go on then. Go on, because I think I've got one. Yeah.
So I mentioned her earlier how she looked a bit ropey, but the hooker that surprised Commandant Lassard in the film was played by adult film actress Georgina Spelvin. Again, things not to Google. I think she's probably up there. And she played this role shortly after retiring from the adult film industry.
Yes.
And I think it kind of shows really.
Yeah. There is a fine, like footballers, there's a finite time to practice your craft.
Yeah.
It's the nice way of putting it. Yeah, you covered some of the other stuff about the Roger Ebert. I think that's a great. It's a great.
The whole reviews were, if any listeners out there, maybe put it in the Twitter feed. I don't know, but yeah, read his 0-star review of Police Academy, because he rarely used to give 0 stars. It was only if he felt something was actually really offensive or oversteps the bounds of decency. But so it's really rare for him to give it 0 star because it had no merit or integrity. But that was his view on Police Academy.
And probably a good thing to end trivia time on. You can go and look at this on Wikipedia, but the Rotten Tomato scores are 55%. These are user reviews. 55% for Police Academy, 31% for Police Academy 2, 40% for Police Academy 3, and I'm not joking. Police Academy 4 gets 20 reviews. Police Academy 5 gets 8 reviews. Police Academy 6 gets 8 reviews. And Police Academy, not called Police Academy 7, Police Academy Mission to Moscow gets 7 reviews. All of them are 0%. And people have taken, and the thing about it is people have taken time to go, I'm going to review this. Even if it's just a pithy, few lines for Rotten Tomatoes, they've taken the time to log in to say, I need to demonstrate the film's 0%. That's something.
Michael Winslow will be crying all the way to the bank.
Well, he was on America's Got Talent, so he probably needs a bit of a. He mentioned in an interview, I seem to remember in an interview, that they want to make a Police Academy 8 with all the people that are still around. So maybe Michael Winslow's agent and Steve Guttenberg's agent are going, yeah.
I think that ship has sailed, but I think. Do
you think? Do you think it could be? Do you not think it could be a viable?
I think you could reboot the franchise, but I don't think. I mean, half of them are dead anyway, aren't they? But I don't think you could use the original cast. Maybe you might have a cameo from Winslow. I'm sure he'd shoehorn his way in.
Well, you can still have. So wait a minute. You can still have Leslie Easterbrook. You still have Steve Guttenberg. You can still have Kim Cattrall, like she'd come back, or Sharon Stone. Yeah, I'm sure she wants that on her. Hey kids, you might remember me from such films as Basic Instinct, but Police Academy 4 was my. I mean, she started in stuff like Alan Quatermain and The Lost City of Gold, right? In which she was very, very good. And then, she hits it big with Basic Instinct. Well, with Total Recall was her breakout film. And then, Sharon Stone is just lovely.
But go on then, here's a little quiz for you. So who would you have as the rebooted cast? I think you'd have to have Ryan Reynolds, somebody like that, in the Steve Guttenberg role.
Oh, no, we're not including the original. Okay. Ryan Reynolds wouldn't do that. You've got to find somebody famous that wants to be on the up.
Yeah, I meant more would make a good character as opposed to plausibly his.
Oh, if you were making okay, well, no, let's do it. Your perfect Police Academy film. Okay, goofball. Would I go for Ryan Reynolds?
Surely The Rock in the High Tower. Role.
No, because then it would remind me of the worst film I've seen in the last year, Red Notice. Oh, good Lord. Have you got Netflix?
Yeah.
Right, well, set a filter on it for Red and Notice so it never appears in your, so you don't even get mildly curious. You can tell me you've seen it now, haven't you?
No, but you're
It's awful.
Okay.
It's awful. We turned it off halfway through. And you've got 3 big stars there. It is the laziest plot and movie making I've possibly ever seen.
I wasn't a fan of that Jungle Cruise one that he did either. Really, I thought that was a bit.
Oh, that was Citizen Kane next to Red Notice. So So,
I think
yeah.
Jack Black is the tubby gay one that gets chucked off the bridge in the kiosk. Yeah, surely there's a role for him there.
Jack Black as the Steve Guttenberg character.
No, because he's he's got to be the handsome straight guy, hasn't he?
He doesn't. Well, okay. Well, do you know what, listeners? I'll put something out on the Facebook. We do have people that communicate and go on the Facebook. So I will put that, and let's see if we can build a rebooted Police Academy.
Fantasy rebooted Academy cast list. Yeah, I'm up for it.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of Tackleberries out there now. So yeah, I'm sure somebody, Jason Statham. Yeah, you can have anybody you like. It's fine. Right. Well, we've reached the end of the podcast. I told you that there would be, we'd be all over the place. I said this at the start. I said this to you, Don, before we started recording. There's lots of things that we needed to get through. I am going to try and find footage of the police. Somebody must have taken something at some point of the Police Academy Stunt Spectacular, which I guarantee is going to be utter waz.
Put it on your social media. I'll check it out.
Oh yeah, I'm going to put the first episode of the Police Academy for you to watch, the series, and you'll go after 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm out. I'm out. If it takes you longer than that, then you need to turn the sound up because obviously something's missing.
Police Academy, the series that makes you want to tap out. Yeah. Okay. On that note.
On that review, well, exactly. Right, do you want to know what season 6 is going to be about?
I do. Yeah. Is this the end of? Have we done?
Oh no! This isn't the end. This isn't the end. Okay. I've got one more with Joe and another one with Amanda, and then it will be. I think. Oh no! I thought I had it to hand, and I don't. It was, and then I cleared this place up. So I'll put you out your misery. It's sequels.
Sequels.
Now it's very easy. I mean, when I mentioned it because Amanda said we get to choose the topic, she chose Cops and Robbers for this season. I said sequels because it doesn't cram us into one genre. But my initial thoughts are we kick off with Jaws 3 in 3D.
Right. So when you say sequels, you
sequel.
mean right? So it doesn't have to be the second film in the sequel.
So you could have Star Trek 5, but we're not doing that.
Okay. No, I mean obviously the
2010. I mean, I've been sitting here championing 2010 every single chance that I get, and I read the reviews for that on Rotten Tomatoes, and they are. I mean, Roger Ebert falls over himself to say how good that film is, and he's right. It's great. He says it doesn't hold the same intellectual sway as 2001, but what does? I mean, literally that is an epic. 2010 does its best. That's a sequel. So yeah,
I think that's a great choice of series, because the whole thing about the classic thing is it's never as good as the original, is it? There's a deteriorating. But so is that true? Are there examples that isn't true? Even if it's not the same as the first, does it take it in a more interesting direction? So no, count me in.
But it's sequels, as I say, sequels in the 80s. So you talk about the great sequels, the 70s, Godfather Part 2, great sequels of the 90s, Terminator 2. You can have Aliens. There's loads of different places you can go.
I will send you a couple of suggestions, and I might try.
Absolutely, send me suggestions of things that you'd like to do. Joe, start thinking about it now, because this is the first time I told you. The only time I'd said is when I discussed it with Amanda yesterday. I went, do you know what? I want to start with Jaws 3. So I said, should we do thrillers? Should we do? And she went, I don't know. I thought, well, how about sequels? Yeah, okay. Because she said, oh, so finally we can prove that Lethal Weapon 2 is better than Lethal Weapon 1. I went, well, maybe not as obvious as that, because we've already kind of mentioned that on the podcast, but it is better.
Might be fun to do one or two that you've done earlier in the series.
Yeah, maybe. But think about ones that you'd like to do, and then we'll do it from there. But
I will do. But
There
in
you
the
go.
meantime,
You're going to
thank
come
you
up with
very-
some. You're going to come up with some obscure. Oh,
No. I'll try.
I don't know
try
where
and keep
you're going to go with this.
No. Okay. All right. Well, you know me too well. I'll try and make it interesting for listener, but
It's going to be British, and it's going to be obscure.
I might go for French. I might go for European. How that? I might even weave pretentious in there as well.
Oh right, okay. So, what was the sequel to Abu de Souffle, Breathless? What was that? I mean, I probably bastardized that language, but still, my pronunciation is not good. I get away with that on swear words because it's describing a action rather than a noun. YouTube censors. Anyway, so there we have it. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you.
I love the fact that I have somebody of your caliber. You were doing the podcast now. I talked about it last time. I'm not going to praise you anymore because I think you're amazing. But I have somebody like you to watch Police Academy with and discuss Police Academy, and that makes me extremely happy. So I've had a great time watching the film and doing the podcast. So thank you.
You're very kind. It's your pod. I love being on it. Thank you for having me. And
you're not going to be special guest anymore. You're going to be part of I don't know, what do we call it? Rotation. I don't know. But whatever it is, this is great. And we're getting some good numbers now. I think we've got a lift from somewhere and I don't know where, but we've seen the numbers go up. I wish it was as popular as my personal channel on YouTube, which I post videos of Peter Hook and the Light doing Blue Monday, and it's currently up to 12,000 views. I'm like, yeah, it's like that. But then it has that big thing, which is copyright claim. I go, well, of course it's copyright claim. I'm videoing him performing a song. I mean, literally, so I can't make any money off it. So I don't want to. I just want to share it with the masses. I've got loads of gigs this year lined up. So I've got loads of things to put on my personal channel. If you're listening on audio, watch on YouTube. If you watch it on YouTube, watch a bit on YouTube, watch the rest of it audio, watch wherever you like. Contact us on Facebook, Rusted Junk Podcast, find us there. Love to hear from you. So yeah, with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Over to you.
Thank you, Charles. Thanks, listeners. Bye-bye, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.